lot of people in society nowadays is like, well, that's not me, that's you, until it hits you. And so I am thankful to God that it was me he chose. I know that sounds crazy, but because of the podcast and because I do have, a nice little following on my social media pages, I'm bringing awareness in my own way. So what I would love to do with you today is if I could partner with your company, if I could, have people check in with me and get to communicate with you guys as someone on a regular to keep me abreast on news, information. I definitely want to purchase some of the bras because I really need it. I would love to do all of that.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. Listen, I didn't know about any of this when I was diagnosed in 2010. I had absolutely no reason to understand breast cancer, right? It wasn't around. It wasn't affecting my friends. It wasn't affecting my family. It wasn't affecting the people I worked with. There's just, it wasn't in my radar. And I think what's really amazing is that if we can educate each other and support each other with really positive and trusted information, then we as women, like a generation of women, we can really help make a difference because we're trying to make a difference in so many places, right? We're trying to find equality, both in race and in gender. We're trying to find ways to, make women's health care better, right? We're trying so hard to carry a weight of so many generations that I think it's really awesome that we can have a conversation like this and you can learn and hopefully, people listening here can learn and then, we can all support each other because that's the importance and it's the only way that we win.
Oh, I absolutely, and I totally agree with you 100%. So I'm noticing on the website, and for those that we're now going to go to the caller. Oh, they called right back. Before I get into that, let's take this caller, Dana, and find out who they are calling from.
Okay. Hold on.
Awesome.
Baby, it's okay, baby. Come here, baby. Daddy, he's gonna be right back. How you? Hello? Yes, ma'am. How y'all doing? It's Pastor Don Jr. CEO. How you doing?
Well, can you tell me your name and where you're calling from?
Yes, my name is Pastor Don Jr. CEO. I'm calling from sunny Chandler, Arizona. I'm actually just we just had a new addition to our family. We just had a baby, and my daughter is 3 years old, and her sister is just beautiful. So I'm here, man. I was reaching out. I just got the text message from my interns, and they said, "Hey, I need to be on this radio show." And right when I called in, the nurse had walked in the room, so I had to call you right back.
Okay. Well, thank you for being on the show. So to catch you up to speed, you're sitting in with myself. My name is Ty Jones. The name of the show is Ty Jones, The Voice. And my guest today is Dana DONOFREE, and she owns the company AnaOno, and they are doing some amazing things for people with breast cancer. So what I'm going to ask of you is, if you do me a favor, the noise reduction has to be a part of this, because if not, I cannot continue to ask you questions or you ask questions to my guests.
100%.
Okay, because I try to do a show that's super professional, and I can't deal with them. I can't deal with the noise. Not to say that I don't congratulate you for your new one. Okay. But since you are calling into the show, do you have any questions for my guest or for me?
I surely do.
Before we get
yeah.
Okay.
I'm very familiar with breast cancer. My granny, she beat stage 4 cancer, period. But what I want to ask is, a lot of times women of age, when I say of the ages of anywhere from 9 to 15, depending on how fast they develop, they don't get enough of the information systems until they get older, until it's like past the point. I'm asking this question: do you think with more prevention, will it be a easier fix, or is it a situation that we don't understand what it is until it happens?
Dana, I'm going to let you take that question.
Yeah, I think honestly that's a great question, and thank you for calling in and realizing this for the young women around you. I think that I've now been in this community for almost 10 years, and the reality is that we have to educate young women to be advocates for their own health. And we can't allow barriers to be in our way that if we feel something or see something or have a change in our breasts specifically, that we alert a medical professional about, that we don't stop fighting until we have an answer. Because I know of many young women, as young as high school, that have gone to their doctors and have reported a problem with their breasts, either physically or, either physically by feeling something or physically by seeing something. And the doctors have not proceeded to take them through the typical range of testing protocols because they, believe they're probably too young and it's probably something else. And honestly, in most cases, it might be something else. But I think when those young women have strong parents, either a father or a mother that is there with them saying, we need to test this, or we need a biopsy, or we need a scan, we need to know that this is not breast cancer, it is 100% your right to get those answers. And you cannot stop. You have to prevail and constantly push for your own health and your own advocacy. And it's really, quite frankly, a shame that we do have to push so hard to get answers, because young women do get breast cancer.
Well,
yeah, and so let me just
feel about,
say, hold on one second.
How do you feel
sir.
about the stress factor? I do want to ask that just in case there's a lot of noise.
Okay.
But on piggybacking off what you said, how do you feel about the stress actually adding into the whole situation?
1 second, sir? She's gonna answer your question, but let me just do a PSA real quick, and then I'll let you ask your question. Okay? We one thing at a time. For all those that are just tuning in, my guest today is Dana DONOFREE, and she has a host of information for all those that want some of the resources, a fit guide, information about Dana and the company AnaOno. You can go to the website. This is for all women that are recovering from various forms of breast cancer, and you want to purchase products like different bras. Go to AnaOno.com so you can pick up your bras, and free shipping on orders over $75 or more. I just subscribed, Dana, so I definitely will be shopping. All right, sir. That's the show. Ask your question, please, and sorry for that. Go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry to overtalk you, ma'am. It's just that I didn't want to have, because they was making announcements, I didn't want to get that feedback. But my question was, to piggyback off what you said, how do you feel the stress factor plays into cancer along with the actual healing factor? Because sometimes when you're overstressed, it's hard for your body to heal. At the same time, when the people get the mammograms and they get immediate, without not having the information and knowledge, they get an inertia of just negative energy because they don't know, and it's uneasy feeling of not knowing, and it creates stress. And stress is like the biggest killer of people we never talk about. But as far as cancer and stress is concerned, how do you feel like those two items correlate with each other?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really relevant question, and that is, I think for me personally, I'm not a medical professional. I've just now been a patient for so long, but we know that stress is a factor in our health, and I myself as a patient has been told that stress can present itself in many different ways, from headaches to stomach pain to cancer to chronic illness, right? Like, we know stress is absolutely, you're right, heart attacks and strokes, right? Stress is a huge factor on our health overall. And there is a balance in our livelihood to say, if you're a young woman whose mother has had breast cancer, whose grandmother has had breast cancer, whose aunts have had breast cancer, whose grandmother's sisters have had breast cancer, there is a stress factor to that, right? Because you're really nervous and afraid that that's going to be you. And, there's an important piece to, again, taking your own health and advocating for yourself and receiving a genetic test. And I always encourage young people to have the genetic test if they do have a strong family history. And it's not because you have to immediately make radical decisions about your health, but you do get to arm yourself with information that can be life-saving. And when you go into a doctor and say you are 24 years old and you do have a genetic mutation, you can go to that doctor and you can complain about a pain in your chest or in your abdomen. And that doctor would say, okay, I see that you have a positive genetic result. And that doctor could then automatically prescribe you that next test in order to make sure everything's okay. And I think that that's a part of educating and empowering yourself with information while also, trying to level how do you face this world knowing that maybe cancer runs in your family and that you could potentially receive a cancer diagnosis yourself. So I get it. I think stress is so huge. I'm a breast cancer patient for 10 years. Every morning I wake up, I think about my cancer. That is stress that I will live with for the rest of my life. And I also know that that's not healthy, right? So I have to find ways I have to deal with my own stress because that's really the only thing that I have that I can work on. Like somebody else can't work on my stress for me. Unfortunately, I don't live on a beach with flying seagulls over my head every day. I wish I did.
I think that's the majority of us. Like, not for nothing, prior to moving to Tacoma, Washington, I was living in Hawaii. And I miss that weather every damn day. I wish I could live there forever. But, when you're a military wife, you got to go where your husband goes. So, unfortunately, I noticed this disease that we are dealing with, it's taken names and numbers, and it does not discriminate. And so for all those listening today on this podcast, I would encourage you because I wasn't diagnosed young. I just got my diagnosis at the age of 46. And honestly, no, at 45, because it was in the last year in October is when I had my very first ever mammogram. And I say that to say I was one of those people that just thought it would never happen to me. It's not going to happen to me. My breasts are not that big. That's a myth. And I did self-examinations and never felt anything, but it wasn't until I had the mammogram and they noticed some calcification buildup. And then, they told me, we need for you to go and get some extra exams done, like a biopsy. So when I received the news, I was sitting in an office by myself with an oncologist and another doctor, and they gave me my diagnosis, and my first response was, okay, so what do we do next? And I think that's where my mindset is even now. So, it's not about, oh, woe is me, and don't get me wrong, I have my rough days, but you have to remain steadfast when it comes to this disease that is not discriminating against an age, a woman. I even came across a man that I follow on Instagram. He goes by the name of Pumpkinhead for whatever reason, but I didn't ask for the pictures. Trust me, I didn't. But this man sent me photographs of, the cuts that are sliced underneath the breast, because that's how they do the vasectomy. But he had breast cancer. I didn't know men could get it. I was under the impression it was a woman thing. So this is not just a female disease, just for those that are listening.
Correct.
It really is not.
Mm-hmm.
That is another.
Amen.
Dana, would you expound on that?
Yeah, I think that's the reality is that, cancer doesn't discriminate, and it doesn't care who you are, what your background is, what age you are, if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're non-binary. None of these things matter when it comes to cancer. And when it comes to breast cancer, I think that's the unfortunate side of the awareness that has been delivered to us for the last 20 odd years is that all awareness campaigns, really up until almost recently, was delivered to you by a middle-aged white woman. And that really is dangerous for all of us because we say, okay, if all we see are middle-aged white women on every billboard, every ad, every pamphlet, every